Oh hey, I'm uploading on this channel again. How can I make this not look bad? I can't. Alright. So I started a book called The Nightmare Man, which is horror, I think. So I'm still really early on. I think I'm like 8 chapters in and the chapters aren't long. I'm listening to it on audiobook, so I can't really give you a page count or anything. I'm not very far in, but I like it. I'm very interested. So we're following 2 perspectives. We have the detectives that are trying to solve the cases, and then we have the author. So the main perspective that we've focused on up to this point has been the author. And this is a man who writes horror novels, and they're extremely successful, but we are slowly realizing that these horror novels, there's something weird going on here. Like, one guy showed up at a book signing and like was irate, screaming at him, hysterical, saying like, you stole my nightmares. And then there was another scenario where he published a book and then bodies were found that were exactly like what happened in the book. This very twisted, disgusting thing in his book was play by play that, but the murders weren't found, the bodies weren't found immediately, and actually these murders happened before the book was released, which means either something supernatural strange is going on, or like, I don't know, an editor. It would be boring if it was an editor. So I'm really hoping that there is some sort of supernatural slant to that. Battery died. All I'm saying is that there's a lot of opportunity. That's the old battery. There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of different directions that it could go in, and there's several directions that could be interesting. Human directions, supernatural directions. It's interesting. But obviously the author, people are looking at him, and he's the #1 suspect right now, because like, you're writing this demented stuff and then it's happening too soon for it to be a copycat, too soon for it to be a deranged fan, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I don't really care about the detective perspective, like even a little bit, because I don't care about following detectives, but it's mostly about the author. It's mostly from the author's perspective here at the beginning, so I'm into it, and I'm excited. Welcome back to the vlogs. I post on this channel again. Good to be back. So, Nightmare Man is probably going to be the only book that I complete this week. That was the cat rubbing against the tripod. Just come over here if you want affection. I'm still enjoying it, though not as on the edge of my seat as I was at the beginning. Mysteries, you know, I'm just a tough sell, I guess. It is still keeping my attention. It's kind of like a mystery horror. I don't personally think that it's scary, but it leans in on, you know, the Nightmare Man. It leans in on nightmares and stealing people's nightmares, and it's a very like scarecrows appearing in your window, and that's the sign that you're next and stuff like that. So it kind of leans into that, which is keeping me far more interested than just like your standard detective novel does. Not that I'm not trying to talk down on detective novels, it's just that's not my thing. And the detective elements of it are definitely not as big of a focus, and it's more of, okay, what's this author hiding? I don't think the author did it, but he's obviously also not telling everything, so what else is there? There has been one reveal so far that I just didn't like. So, you know, mysteries, you get like multiple reveals and stuff, and I just didn't. So that kind of has me a little bit nervous, because I really didn't like that one. So now it's like, ooh, I hope this is gonna be satisfying. I hope this is gonna be worth my time. So I'll keep you updated on that. If I'm, you know, obviously I won't tell you the end or tell you in what direction it ends up going. I'll just tell you in the next clip just my overall Was it satisfying? Was it worth it? In the meantime, I also read volume 4 of Vagabond, and oh, I really liked it. We're kind of digging a lot deeper into Vagabond is a like historical fiction martial arts story, and we're digging a lot more into the internal stuff that's going on inside of our protagonist, digging into more of his emotions and feelings and how he feels like those are a blockade to him, and trying to rid himself of his humanness so that he can just become a martial artist, the best martial artist, and people in his life that are trying to help him, trying to speak into his life, as well as a little bit more on the side characters that are very minor right now that I assume are going to rise up and be a lot more significant in Musashi's, in the main character's life. A lot of really interesting things happening. This is definitely going to be a more philosophical story, which I'm down for. Like, I'm always into having a book or a series that has some interesting discussions, and especially since this is a series that I'm discussing with Philip, it's going to be perfect for us to be able to really dig into. So I'm excited to kind of uncover more and more of those layers as we go along. But yeah, I don't know, I'm into it. It's very, very slow. It's incredibly slow. And when it's described as a story following a martial artist, that gives a really different idea of what the series actually is. It gives a really different idea than what it actually is, which is, at least in my experience so far, 4 volumes in, is a very, very slow burn philosophical story. Not action heavy, at least at this point. But I could be proven wrong very, very quickly. All I know is that I am enjoying that side of it. I'm enjoying the discussions of it, but I'm also happy that I'm reading more than just one manga, because I could definitely see myself kind of losing interest if I weren't flipping back and forth between other things. Anyway, I'll let you know what I think of The Nightmare Man. Nah. Truthfully, I just don't really think that this was the book for me. It wasn't the story. It wasn't my story. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm just going to try to talk to you about the story, give you an idea of what it is in case it's something that interests you, and then you can decide what you want to do about it, because it wasn't mine. We follow Ben Bookman, who's a very famous author, and I already told you the premise in one of my vlog clips. Murders are happening. It should be a copycat, but this is happening within a time span that makes him look very, very suspicious. And then we're also following the lead detective on the case, as well as his daughter, who is the assistant detective, or like, what's the correct term for that? She's a detective too. So the premise of this book, the thing that we're doing in this book is this is a story where nightmares can eep into the real world, where people's nightmares that are haunting them, that are plaguing them, can become physical and can inhabit people. And we unravel more and more about the causation of this, as well as the different layers to how this is happening and the ins and outs of it, very, very slowly throughout the novel. We get little hints and clues, and this book constantly has the reader guessing about what's going on, and it just continues to get more and more complicated and in depth the more we learn about Ben and his family, as well as his past, and the connections in all that's happening here. Basically nothing is what it looks like on the surface, and as you continue to unravel things, it will continue to not be what it looks like on the surface until the very last page. For me, the premise was killer. I was so into it in the beginning, and I will say that this author, I think this is my first book by this author, and he is an excellent writer in the sense of he's very vivid. Like he makes his scenes very strong. Like I can see everything, I can feel everything. He draws out emotion as well as just very visceral. It draws those pictures in your mind very, very well. So he does a great job with that. He does a great job with keeping you guessing and keeping you wondering. I think where I kind of fell off was that sorry, memory card filled up. I think where I fell off is just that there's so many characters that are being introduced, especially near the end. Like in the beginning, I was keeping up with everybody and everything. I had my string connections. I knew who I was suspecting, and then it just got more and more people added, more and more elements added, to the point that it really kind of got a little bit convoluted. And by the end, when we were like unraveling everything, it was just there were just a lot of pieces to it. And if that's your thing, killer. But at first I was having a lot of fun trying to trace every character and all their different connections and all the implications, but it ended up being so many pieces on the board by the end that I just like wasn't having fun anymore. And I don't know, there were other elements that I just wasn't digging either, that I feel like I can't really dig into spoiler free, but there were just some things that didn't end up suiting me for this book entirely. It just wasn't my thing, but I also don't want to put you off from reading it if it sounds like it might be your thing, because it is a really unique premise and it is a really cool idea, and I do think that he's a good writer. It just ended up, I just kind of lost interest by the end. By the end of it, I was just like, all right, so what? Like, what's the answer? Because I'm good. But that's all right. It was a book that was pretty different from what I normally read, and I did enjoy it for a long time of my reading it, and it was fine. Anyway, I also read Yona of the Dawn. I've read the next 2 volumes, which is 7 and 8. I loved volume 7 so much. I'm so proud of where Yona is going, and I'm really, really impressed with the writing, just continually impressed with the writing. Showing Yona's tenacity and her strength and her refusal to just give in or to take the easy route or to do what's expected of her, but to do what she truly believes is right. But at the same time, in the very next breath, showing her incredible vulnerability and softness and how broken she still is from everything that she's gone through up to this point. I just really, really love seeing those two sides of her strength and her passion and her drive, and then also her tenderness and her brokenness, and how much she still has, how far she still has to go. And it's just, really, really loving her as a character. I did not love volume 8 nearly as much. It was just more setup, more of looking at other characters and other, chess pieces around the world that are moving, building up to something that will be interesting, but the build up I'm not always interested in. So that volume was, it was fine. But we do now have, how do I say this spoiler free? We do have the 4 now. Is that fine? That feels fine. We have the 4 that we were looking for. So that's neat. Doesn't seem like, I don't know if our crew is completely assembled at this point, but we've certainly got our crew built up well. And I am really, really curious to see. This dynamic is just continuing to get hilarious among our crew, among our group of people, because they just don't meld well, and I love that. Like I love watching them bicker and fight and get on each other's nerves, but also just like all be so fun. Newest edition I'm not sold on yet, so you'll have to give me a little bit of time. We'll see where that takes us. That's the vlog. Next week I will be in a different location. I won't be around my house doing vloggy things, at least for part of the week. The beginning of the vlog I'll be in Utah hanging out with Sanderson and his team, doing some videos for his channel, hopefully maybe one for mine as well, and I think that's gonna be fun. So I'm really excited about that, so that'll be a thing that happens as well. Anyway, I don't know. Was this vlog interesting? I only talked about one book and I felt pretty lukewarm about it, but hey, maybe you learned about a new release because it did just get released a couple weeks ago, and maybe it'll spark your interest to check it out and you'll like it more than me. But anyway, on this channel I post videos every Tuesday and Thursday. On the main channel I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This month maybe not on Wednesdays. I'll see you again soon. Bye.